Have you ever walked into a client meeting feeling completely prepared, but the moment the client looks at you and says, "So tell me what you have in mind," your confidence disappears. Suddenly, you start speaking too quickly. You explain more than necessary. You agree with everything they say, and even when you know exactly what they are talking about, you somehow sound as though you're asking for permission to be there. Here is what most people misunderstand. Confidence in front of a client does not come from knowing every answer. It comes from knowing that even when you don't have an answer, you can still handle the conversation. This is completely different kind of confidence. Today, I want to show you have you ever enter a client meeting, control your nerves and communicate with value and leave the room without replaying every sentence in your head for the next 3 days. Let's begin with the first mistake. Most people enter a client meeting as though they are attending an interview. They think, "I hope they like my idea. I hope they don't reject my price. I hope I sound intelligent. I hope I get the client." And the moment you enter with that mindset, you place the client above you. You become the applicant and they become the judge. But a client meeting is not an audition. It's a conversation between two parties trying to determine whether they can solve a problem together. The client may understand their business better than you do, but you should understand your area of expertise better than they do. That is why they called you. So before you entering the meeting, replace this thought. I need to impress them. With this, I need to understand them. The one shift removes an enormous amount of pressure, because when your goal is to impress, you become self-conscious. When your goal is to understand, you become curious, and curiosity always looks more confident than performance. Instead of worrying about how you are sitting, how your voice sounds, and whether they liked your last sentence, you start listening. You ask better questions. You notice what the client is not saying, and you stop treating every silence like an emergency. Now let's talk about preparation. Many people prepare for the client meeting by memorizing exactly what they want to say. They rehearse the opening, they rehearse the presentation, they rehearse answers to imaginary questions. But the client does not have your script. They may interrupt you within the first 30 seconds. They may take the discussion in a completely different direction. And then your carefully memorized confidence collapses. Don't prepare every sentence. Prepare 3 things. Understand the client's current situation. Develop one clear professional opinion. And prepare 3 intelligent questions. For example, what result would make this project successful for you? What have you already tried? What is currently stopping you from achieving the result? These questions immediately change your position in the room. You are no longer someone desperately presenting a service. You are diagnosing a problem. A professional diagnose before they prescribe. Imagine going to a doctor and saying, "My shoulder hurts." And the doctor immediately replies, "Perfect, you need a surgery." Would you leave? Yet, this is exactly what many people do in client meetings. The client mentions one problem and we immediately start selling our package. Slow down. Ask, listen, then recommend. Now, your first few moments in the room do matter. Research has shown that people can begin performing impressions from a face after exposure as brief as 1/10 of a second. That does not mean the entire meeting is decided instantly, but it does remind us how quickly the human brain begins evaluating what it sees. So how should one enter? Not with a dramatic power pose, not by pretending to be the most important person in the building. Simply enter without rushing. Keep your moments controlled. Make comfortable eye contact. Greet people clearly. And take 1 second to settle before you begin speaking. People often believe confidence means constantly filling the room with energy. It doesn't. Confidence is often visible in what you don't rush to do. Don't rush to sit. You don't rush to open your laptop. You don't rush to answer. And you certainly don't rush to fill every silence. A confident person can allow the conversation to breathe. Now, what about nervousness? Before an important meeting, your heart may start beating faster. Your hands may feel slightly cold. You may feel restless. Most people immediately tell themselves, calm down, stop being nervous, don't mess it up. The problem is that your body is already activated, trying to force yourself from high energy into complete calm can be difficult. A better option is to reinterpret the energy. Research on performance anxiety found that people who reframed their anxiety as excitement performed better than people who simply tried to calm themselves down. Even a small change in self-talk, such as saying, "I'm excited," helped people adopt more of an opportunity mindset than the threat mindset. So before your next meeting, don't say, "I am nervous because this client is important." Say, "My body is preparing because this conversation matters." The physical sensation may be similar, but the story you attach to it changes how you use it. Here is another important point. Your nervousness is probably not as visible as you think. Psychologists use this term spotlight effect to describe our tendency to overestimate how much other people notice and evaluate our actions or appearances. You may mispronounce one word and spend the rest of the meeting thinking, "They noticed. They think I am incompetent. This entire meeting is ruined." Meanwhile, the client may already be thinking about their budget, their next appointment, or what they are having for lunch. People are paying far less attention to our tiny mistakes than you imagine. And even when they notice one, how you respond matters more than the mistake itself. If you lose your words, pause. If you make an error, correct it. If you don't know something, don't invent an answer. Say, "I don't want to give you an inaccurate answer. Let me confirm that and come back to you." The sentence does not make you look weak. Guessing confidently and later being proven wrong makes you look weak. Professional confidence includes the ability to say, "I don't know yet." Now, let's discuss the language you use. A person can have an excellent idea and still make it sound weak. Listen to the difference. Weak version. "I just was thinking that maybe we could possibly try changing the strategy slightly." The stronger version. "Based on what we have shared, I recommend changing the strategy." The second version is not aggressive. It is clear. Remove unnecessary words such as "just," "maybe," "I am not sure," "but." This could be a silly idea. "I am probably wrong." These phrases are often used to protect ourselves from disagreement. We weaken the idea before the client even gets a chance to respond. You do not need to make every sentence sound absolute. You can say, "One option worth considering is," "My recommendation would be," "The risk I see here is," "Based on the available information." This allows you to sound thoughtful without sounding uncertain. And please remember, confidence does not mean agreeing with the client all the time. Sometimes the most valuable thing you can do is respectfully challenge them. Imagine a client says, I want 20 videos, but I want all of them shot tomorrow. An approval-seeking response would be, yes, of course, we'll manage. A confident professional might say, we can produce 20 videos, but shooting all of them tomorrow may affect the quality. Let me suggest a structure that protects both the deadline and the final result. You're not fighting the client, you're protecting the outcome. Clients do not always need someone who says yes. They need someone whose yes means something. There is also a difference between explaining your value and defending your existence. When a client questions your price, don't panic and start listing every hour you will work. Bring the conversation back to the value and the scope. You can say, the price reflects the complete process, including planning, execution, quality control, and delivery. Let's review the scope together and see which elements are essential. Notice what you did not do. You did not apologize for the price. You did not immediately offer a discount, and you did not become defensive. You stayed inside the conversation. That is confidence. Now here is a simple 5-minute routine you can use before any client meeting. For the first minute, stop reading your presentation. At that point, more information will not necessarily make you more confident. For the second minute, breathe out more slowly than you breathe in. Relax your jaw and drop your shoulders. For the third minute, remind yourself of the client's problem, not your performance. For the fourth minute, review your 3 important questions. And during the final minute, say to yourself, I do not need to prove everything in this meeting. I only need to create clarity about the next step. That final sentence is important because one meeting does not need to solve the entire relationship. The goal may simply be to understand the problem, or agree to the scope, or schedule the next discussion. Confidence becomes much easier when you stop trying to win the entire future in one conversation. Finally, close the meeting clearly. Do not end with, so, yay, I think that's everything. Instead, summarize what was decided. Confirm who's responsible for what, and give a next step a date. For example, based on today's discussion, I'll send the revised proposal by Thursday. Once you approve the scope, we can confirm the project timeline. A clear ending communicates that you were present, listening, and in control of the process. So the next time you meet a client, remember, you're not entering the room to beg for approval. You are entering to understand a problem, offer professional judgment, and determine whether you are the right people to work together. Prepare your questions. Control your pace. Let silence exist. Speak clearly, and don't confuse nervousness with incompetence. You don't need to feel fearless before you show up. Show up prepared and let your confidence catch up with you. Save this video before your next client meeting and share it with someone who knows their work but still struggles to communicate their value. For more practical communication gyan that works beyond temporary motivation, subscribe and stay connected.